Right, welcome to the compliance final planning session for milestone 16.7. Jensen, I'll pass it over to you to just run through the product priority list here.
All right, awesome. So this is my first go around with the compliance prioritization for this milestone. So I'm excited to drive this, but just to go through our priority list for 16.7, the first is we have SAML SSO authentication for merge request approvals. Essentially, this allows users who have SAML configured to have their users authenticate using SAML instead of a username and password in order to meet a level of compliance that requires that two approvers authenticate themselves, and they must be identified before a merge request is able to be approved. So some users who integrate with SAML obviously don't have a username and password. They just have SAML accounts. So this will allow them to meet that regulatory requirement and have SAML into the SAML integration on. As far as improving and managing the compliance framework, I think that's been talked about last week, so I won't go into too much detail on that, or last milestone, sorry. But to migrate audit events to ClickHouse Cloud, as a reminder, basically the audit event dump is filling up the current database. So we're migrating over to ClickHouse in order to be able to store a significant amount more data. And so that's what that work represents. And we are migrating away from compliance frameworks towards security policies in order to enable all kinds of different use cases and basically streamline compliance into the same framework as security policies. And number 5 here, integrate with third-party storage systems. That is giving our users the ability to essentially easily, with a super easy integration, store their audit logs in order to be able to meet regulatory requirements to store a significant amount of history. Sometimes it's 3 years, sometimes it's 5 years, without integrating with our streaming audit events. We'll just dump it to that system for them. It also gives them the ability to quickly and easily query a history depending on whatever database system they decide. They may even integrate it with their full company system so that they can query those records for things like how quickly their devs are working their way through specific issues. All right, and then the compliance adherence report improvements are just making improvements to the existing feature that I think came out in 16.6. Is that right? 16.6 compliance adherence report, just making sure that is continually being iterated on and is more and more usable for our users so that they can very easily pull up this report and determine what they're in compliance with, for what we recommend in terms of GitLab for how development should work, and like the compliance framework that we would recommend. And then you'll be able to show that to auditors to essentially make it super easy to pass any sort of audit. So that's really the priority this week, just iterating through a lot of big ideas here.
Perfect, thanks, Jensen. I'll jump down to the more detailed plan and just run through this. So improving the compliance framework report. There was a basic report released in 16.6 behind a feature flag. So in 16.7, we want to release that report with some slight improvements, and including moving the editing of compliance frameworks to a single page rather than a pop-up modal at the moment. This is going to facilitate a lot of our next step work that I'll talk about further down. The SAML SSO authentication, this is our main priority. So we have the group SAML in development at the moment, and we want to release that along with instance level SAML authentication in 16.7. Migrate audit events to ClickHouse Cloud. So we have the schema created and validated. We want to begin the data transfer from our staging and production databases. This will, due to the size, it's going to take us a while to get this across. But while that's happening, we can start to develop and move across some of the features that we currently use on Postgres to the ClickHouse database. The standards adherence report improvements. So we want to release filtering, grouping of so being able to filter the adherence reports by the different checks, by projects, things like that, and grouping. So being able to group the rows by projects, grouping the rows by the different checks, and that sort of thing, and then a scan on demand feature. So at the moment, the scan will happen through all of the checks on all of the projects for a group, depending on when a setting is changed. But we want to allow users to the ability to be able to scan on demand as well, and beginning work on exporting out all of those results. Improving group level and admin branch protection. So we've started the migration work of the database. This work will continue on through till 16.9 before we can complete it. So the compliance framework report, as mentioned above, we want to move to single page editing, and then we want to start linking the security policies that will be, that Jensen mentioned before. So we want to create all the issues and start work on linking the security policies here. Some of that work has already begun. Streaming audit events. So we have released AWS S3 at group level for streaming audit events in 16.6, and in 16.7 we want to release all the instance level APIs and start work on the UI. It's sort of a stretch goal to get that all complete. And for the filtering side of things, we have the filtering by subgroup or project. We want to release that at the group level filtering and begin a majority of the work on the instance level filtering as well. And then we've got a couple of epics there around increasing our audit event coverage and our end-to-end test coverage that we just want to continue working through. Yeah. Anything else to add from there, Jensen? Otherwise, I'll stop the recording.
So just a quick question. Is this internal or internal only?
External as well.
Okay. Then I won't add any context to this at the moment.
Yeah. All right. I'll stop the recording.